Three receptionists at a convention were comparing how dodgy their co-workers were. The first said, "Nobody is dodgier than car salesmen. My colleagues will patch up a wreck just enough to get it off the lot before it breaks down. Then they swear it was in perfect condition." The second scoffed, "Please, I work at a law firm. Our lawyers will defend that car yard in court and make sure they're never responsible for selling you that lemon." The third sighed, "That hits close to home. I bought a car like that. It broke down the same day, right in my office parking lot. I took the car yard to court and their lawyer got them off scot-free." The first receptionist frowned. "So which was dodgier, the salesman or the lawyers?" The third shook her head. "Neither. I work for the local police. While I was stuck in my broken-down car, one of my colleagues reversed into me, then arrested me for reckless driving." When I was learning to drive in the winter, my dad told me, "If you're ever lost in the snow, wait for a plow truck, then follow it." One cold, snowy Minnesota night, I got lost on the way home. The snow was blowing so fast and piling up so high I couldn't see any street signs. With no map in my car and a dead cell phone, I thought I might be stranded, so I pulled over to the side of the road. Then, breaking through the flurries, I saw the headlights of a plow truck in my rearview mirror. Thanking my lucky stars, I turned in and followed the truck, hopeful that it would lead me back somewhere I recognized. I followed that truck for what felt like hours. He turned left, I'd turn left, he'd swing to the right, and I was right on his tail. After a while, I saw brake lights from the plow, followed by four-way flashers. The plow had stopped, and I saw the driver get out and approach my car. I rolled down the window to talk to him. "Why are you following me, kid?" the plow driver asked. "Well, sir, my dad told me if I was ever lost in a snowstorm, I should wait for a plow truck and then follow it." "Well," said the plow driver, "I just finished clearing the Target parking lot. Want to follow me over to Best Buy?" A girl is walking through a cemetery at night. She's a little nervous because it's dark, but it's the shortest way to get to her home. Suddenly, she hears a distinct tapping noise from the graves on her left. Her heart almost stops as she pauses mid-step. She hears it again. Tap, tap, tap. She screams and starts running down the path. After a while, she stops to catch her breath. "This is silly," she thinks to herself. "There must be a rational explanation." She slowly retraces her steps and walks towards the direction of the sound. Tap, tap, tap. There, sitting on a grave, is a gentle old man with a small hammer and chisel. He is tapping out an inscription on the tombstone. "Phew, you scared me," the girl says, relieved upon seeing him. "What are you carving there?" The old man turns to her and smiles. "I'm just correcting the spelling of my name." A friend of mine who was an officer invited me for a ride along. As we were driving along, he told me, "I've been a cop for almost 20 years now. I can follow anyone, and I mean anyone, for just 1 mile down the road, and I can find something I can cite them for." I said, "Prove it." So he started following the next guy he saw. After a mile, he said, "I can't believe it. He didn't do a single thing wrong. I'm going to pull him over and let him know." He pulls the guy over, goes up to him and says, "Sir, I'm sorry I pulled you over. I just wanted to compliment you. I followed you for a while, and not once did you speed, change lanes without signaling, or do anything else deserving of a citation. I rarely see this, so I wanted to thank you for your safe driving." The guy looks up at him and replies, "Well, you've got to be careful when you're drunk." An Irish couple took in an 18-year-old girl as a lodger. She asked if she could have a bath, but the woman of the house told her they didn't have a bath, although if she wanted to, she could use a tin bath in front of the fire. "Monday's the best night when my husband goes out to darts," she said. The girl agreed to have a bath the following Monday. After her husband had gone to the pub for his darts match, the woman filled the bath and watched the girl get undressed. She was surprised to see that the lass didn't have any hair down there. She mentioned this to her husband when he came home. He didn't believe her, so she said, "Next Monday when you go to darts, leave a little early and wait in the back garden. I'll leave a gap in the curtains so you can see for yourself." So the following Monday, while the girl again got undressed, the wife asked, "Do you shave?" "No," replied the girl. "I've just never grown any hair down there. Do you have hair?" "Oh, yes," said the woman, and she pulled up her nightdress, and showed the girl that she was really generously endowed in the hair department. Very generously indeed. The girl finished her bath and went to bed. Later that night, when the husband came in, the wife asked him, "Did you see it?" "Yes," he said, "but why did you have to show her yours?" "Why ever are you worried about that?" she said. "You've seen it often enough before." "I know," he said, "but the entire Dart team hadn't." A mother ant and her daughter were out for a walk in their underground city. They were having a lovely day until they came upon a group of protesters outside the Queen's domain. One, with a sign reading, "It's time to go," spotted them and quickly approached. "Excuse me, ma'am, can you spare a moment to take a look at some alarming literature and help support our cause?" he half shouted at her. The mother held up her hand and tried to pass, but the protester blocked her and continued. "It is imperative that we evacuate the colony. Did you know that the dirt we live in, that we raise our children in, contains magnesium and aluminum, and God knows what else?" Again she politely but firmly shook her head, pulling her daughter along as the man shouted after her, "You owe it to your little girl to evacuate now." After they gained some distance, the young ant looked up worriedly at her mother. "Was that man right, Mommy? Are we in danger?" The mother smiled. "No, sweetheart, don't worry. Just because they use big words to try to scare us doesn't mean the anti-vax movement has any idea what it's talking about." By the time John pulled into the little town, every hotel room was taken. "You gotta have a room somewhere," he pleaded, "or just a bed, I don't care where." "Well, I do have a double room with one occupant," admitted the manager, "and he might be glad to split the cost. But to tell you the truth, he snores so loudly that people in adjoining rooms have complained in the past. I'm not sure it'd be worth it to you." "No problem," the tired traveler assured him. "I'll take it." The next morning, John came down to breakfast, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. The manager was impressed. "No problem with the other guy snoring, then?" "Nope. I shut him up in no time." "How'd you manage that?" "He was already in bed, snoring away when I came in the room," John said. "I went over, gave him a kiss on the cheek, and said, 'Good night, beautiful,' and he sat up all night watching me." At school one day, little Johnny's teacher asked the class to use the word contagious in a sentence. Cindy raises her hand. "Yes, Cindy," she answers. "I was at the dentist's office with my mom, and she said not to play with the toys in the waiting room because the other kids were contagious." "Very good, Cindy," the teacher said. "Anyone else want to try?" Samantha raises her hand. "Yes, Samantha?" She answers. "My dad tells me not to yawn because then everybody else yawns. He says yawning is contagious." "Excellent work, Samantha. Very creative," the teacher praises. "Okay, one more volunteer." Little Johnny raises his hand. "Yes, Johnny?" "Well," he says, "I was helping my dad in the yard last week, and we saw the neighbor painting his house. He was using a small brush, so I asked my dad, 'Daddy, why is he using such a small brush?' And he said, 'I don't know, son, but it's going to take that contagious.'" A college student wanted to sit next to one of his teachers at lunch. However, the teacher looked at the student with an arrogant face and said, "A swan shan't be friends with a pig." "Then I shall fly on," answered the student with a smile. The teacher was clearly vexed by the cheeky reply and decided to do everything in his power to fail the student. At the oral exam, he gave the student the hardest questions, but the student had amazing answers for everything. Therefore, hoping he could still fail his victim, the teacher asked him a trickier question. You're walking on a road and you find two bags. One contains gold, the other cleverness. Which bag do you choose? The gold. Unfortunately, I don't agree. I'd choose cleverness because that's more important than money. Everyone would choose what they don't have, says the student. The teacher turns red, and he's so angry he writes ass on the student's paper. The student leaves without looking at the paper. However, he returns shortly, gives back his paper, and says, "Excuse me, sir, you signed my paper, but you forgot to give me my grade." A village pub was so confident that its barman was the strongest man around that they offered a standing 1,000 pounds bet. The challenge: the barman would squeeze a lemon dry, and if anyone could get even a single extra drop, they'd win the money. Weightlifters and arm wrestlers, dozens tried, but not one could do it. Then one day, in walked a scrawny little man, thinning hair, scratched glasses, and a polyester suit that had seen better decades. "I'd like to take the bet," he said. The pub erupted in laughter, but the barman shrugged, grabbed a lemon, and squeezed it until it was bone dry. Then he handed the shriveled husk to the tiny challenger. The little man gripped the lemon, clenched his fist, and a drop fell into the glass. The crowd went silent. He squeezed again, another drop. One more time, a third drop trickled out. The bar was in shock. As the barman reluctantly handed over the 1,000 pounds, he asked, "Mate, what do you do for a living? Lumberjack, blacksmith, strongman?" The little man smiled. "I'm a tax collector." A man in the locker room at an upscale NYC gym answers his cell phone, switches it to speaker, and starts getting dressed. The entire room falls silent, curious about the conversation. Man: "Hello?" Woman: "Hi, honey, it's me. Are you at the club?" Man: "Yep." Woman: "I was out shopping and found this gorgeous leather coat. It's only $2,000. Think I should buy it?" Man: "Sure, if you like it that much." Woman: "I also stopped by that new Lexus dealership and saw a model I really like. It's on an opening special." Man: "How much?" Woman: $90,000. Man: "Wow, okay, but for that price, I want all the options." Woman: "Great. Oh, and one more thing. I was talking to Jamie, and that house we wanted last year is back on the market. They're asking $980,000 for it." Man: "I'd offer them $900,000. They'll probably take it. If not, we can throw in the extra $80,000 if that's really what you want." Woman: "Okay, I'll see you later. I love you so much." Man: "Love you too." The man hangs up. The entire locker room is staring at him, jaws dropped in disbelief. He turns around and casually says, "Anyone know whose phone this is?" A woman goes to her boyfriend's parents' house for dinner, nervous about meeting the family for the first time. Everyone sits down to enjoy the meal, and the woman starts to feel a bit uncomfortable from both her nerves and the broccoli casserole. The gas pains are becoming unbearable, and she knows she has no choice but to let out a dainty little fart. It wasn't loud, but everyone at the table heard the soft poof. Before she can even get embarrassed, her boyfriend's father looks at the dog lying at her feet and sternly says, "Skippy!" Relieved, the woman thinks, "This is great," and a smile spreads across her face. A few minutes later, the gas pains return. This time she doesn't hesitate and lets out a much louder, longer fart. Once again, the father looks at the dog and shouts, "Damn it, Skippy!" Feeling victorious, the woman smiles again, thinking, "Yes!" Then, a few minutes later, she can't hold it in any longer. She lets out a fart so loud it could rival a train whistle. The father glares at the dog one last time and yells, "Damn it, Skippy, get away from her before she shits on you!" In Southampton, in 1951, a young squatty was being chased by a couple of RMPs. As he rounded the corner of a building, he spotted a nun standing in her long, flowing robes. Out of breath, he pleaded, "Sister, help me. They're sending me to Korea, and I'm terrified. I can't go." Without missing a beat, the nun responded, "Quick, hide under my skirts." The soldier, desperate, did as instructed and tucked himself underneath the nun's robes just as the RMPs turned the corner. "Have you seen a soldier run by, sister?" one of them asked. "Yes," the nun replied. "He went off in that direction." "Thank you, sister," they said, and sprinted off in pursuit. Once the coast was clear, the nun told the soldier he could come out. "Thank you, sister," he said. "I'm so grateful, but I must confess, while I was hiding under your skirts, I saw your knickers." The nun smiled and said, "Don't worry, son. If you'd looked a little higher, you would have seen my knackers. I don't want to go to Korea either." A 15-year-old came home with a Porsche, and his parents began to yell and scream, "Where did you get that car?" He calmly told them, "I bought it today." "With what money?" demanded his parents. "We know what a Porsche costs." Advertisement. "Well," said the boy, "this one cost me $15. The parents began to yell even louder. "Who would sell a car like that for $15? They asked. "It was the lady up the street," said the boy. "Don't know her name. She saw me ride past on my bike and asked me if I wanted to buy a Porsche for $15. "Oh, my goodness," moaned the mother. "Who knows what she will do next? John, you go right up there and see what's going on." So the boy's father walked up the street to the house where the lady lived and found her out in the yard, calmly planting flowers. He introduced himself as the father of the boy to whom she had sold a Porsche for $15 and demanded to know why she did it. "Well," she said, "this morning I got a phone call from my husband. I thought he was on a business trip, but I learned from a friend he has run off to Hawaii with his secretary and really doesn't intend to come back. He asked me to sell his new Porsche and send him the money, so I did." A man goes to the doctor. He says, "Doc, you have to check my leg. Something's wrong. Just put your ear up to my thigh, you'll hear it." The doctor cautiously placed his ear to the man's thigh, only to hear, "Give me $20. I really need $20. I've never seen or heard anything like this before. "How long has this been going on?" the doctor asked. "That's nothing, Doc. Put your ear to my knee." The doctor put his ear to the man's knee and heard it say, "Man, I really need $10. Just lend me $10. "Sir, I really don't know what to tell you. I've never seen anything like this." The doctor was dumbfounded. "Wait, Doc, that's not all. There's more. Just put your ear up to my ankle," the man urged him. The doctor did as the man said and was blown away to hear his ankle plead, "Please, I just need $5. Lend me $5, please, if you will." "I have no idea what to tell you. There's nothing about it in my books," he said as he frantically searched all his medical reference books. "I can make a well-educated guess, though," he continued. "Based on life and all my previous experience, I can tell you that your leg seems to be broken in 3 places." An elderly man accidentally rear-ends a guy driving a pricey European sports car. Enraged, the driver jumps out and storms over to the old man. "Look what you've done to my car! You're going to give me $10,000 right now or I'll beat you to a pulp." The old man, trembling, says, "Oh my, I don't have that kind of money. Let me call my son. He trains dolphins and he'll know what to do." "Dolphins?" the angry driver scoffs, rolling his eyes. The old man pulls out his phone, dials his son, and just as his son picks up, the enraged driver snatches the phone out of the old man's hands. "So, you're a dolphin trainer, huh?" the irate man yells. "Well, your old man just rear-ended my car and I need $10,000 right now, or I'll beat both of you into the ground." "I'll be there in 10 minutes, comes the calm response from the other end. Exactly 10 minutes later, a Jeep pulls up. A tall, tough-looking guy hops out, marches over, and proceeds to utterly pulverize the bully, leaving him crumpled on the side of the road. When he's done, the man walks over to his father, shakes his head, and says, "For the last time, Dad, I train SEALs, Navy SEALs, not dolphins." A rabbit hops into a pub and asks the bartender, "Could I have a pint of beer and a ham and cheese toastie?" The bartender is a bit taken aback but decides to serve the rabbit. The rabbit enjoys his beer, devours the toastie, and leaves. The next night, the rabbit returns and orders the same thing, a pint of beer and a ham and cheese toastie. Word quickly spreads, and the pub is buzzing with curiosity. The bartender serves the rabbit, who enjoys his meal and leaves. By the third night, the pub is packed with eager onlookers. The rabbit orders his usual, and when he finishes his meal, the room erupts in applause. He exits to cheers. On the 4th night, the pub is absolutely packed. People have traveled from all over just to witness this strange and charming guest. The bartender is making more money than he ever thought possible. But when the rabbit walks in and orders his usual, the bartender's face falls. "I'm sorry, my friend," he says, "but we're all out of ham and cheese toasties." The rabbit looks stunned, and the pub goes silent. The bartender, desperate, quickly offers, "But we do have a lovely cheese and onion toastie. I'm sure you'll love it." The rabbit eyes him warily. "Are you sure?" he asks. With a reassuring grin, the bartender replies, "Trust me, you'll love it." "All right," says the rabbit, "I'll have a pint of beer and a cheese and onion toastie." The pub erupts in cheers as the rabbit enjoys his new meal, waves to the crowd, and leaves, never to return. A year later, the pub is in decline. The bartender, who has only served a handful of drinks that night, most of them to himself, calls last orders. As he cleans up, he notices a small white figure hovering above the bar. "Who are you?" he asks. "I'm the ghost of the rabbit who used to visit your pub," replies the ghost. The bartender's eyes widen. I remember you. You made this place famous. Every night you'd come in for a pint of beer and a ham and cheese toastie. People came from miles around just to see you. Yes, the rabbit ghost replies. But I also remember that last night when you ran out of ham and cheese toasties and gave me a cheese and onion toastie instead. That's right, the bartender recalls. But then you never came back. What happened? The rabbit pauses before replying, I died. The bartender gasps. No! How? The rabbit ghost looks at him and says, Mixin' me toasties. One day, while a seamstress was sewing while sitting close to a river, her thimble fell into the river. When she cried out, the Lord appeared and asked, Why are you crying? The seamstress replied that her thimble had fallen into the water and she needed the thimble to make her living. The Lord went down into the water and reappeared with a golden thimble. Is this your thimble? The Lord asked. The seamstress replied, No. The Lord again went down and came up with a wooden thimble. Is this your thimble? The Lord asked. Again, the seamstress replied, No. The Lord went down again and came up with a silver thimble. Is this your thimble? The Lord asked. The seamstress replied, Yes. The Lord was pleased with the woman's honesty and gave her all 3 thimbles to keep, and the seamstress went home happy. Some time later, the seamstress was walking with her husband along the riverbank, and her husband fell into the river. When she cried out, the Lord again appeared and asked her, Why are you crying? Oh Lord, my husband has fallen into the water. The Lord went down into the water and came up with Mel Gibson. Is this your husband? The Lord asked. Yes, cried the seamstress. The Lord was furious. You lied! That is an untruth. The seamstress replied, Oh, forgive me, my lord. It is a misunderstanding. You see, if I had said no to Mel Gibson, you would have come up with Tom Cruise. Then if I said no to him, you would have come up with my husband. Had I then said yes, you would have given me all 3. Lord, I am a poor woman, and am not able to take care of all 3 husbands. So that's why I said yes to Mel Gibson. A young boy lived happily with his family, his brother, mother, father, and dog. His father worked hard in a factory, earning a modest wage but struggling with tough labor. One day, a man knocked on their door and gave them the devastating news that the father had been caught in machinery and died. The mother, heartbroken, took on 2 jobs to support her children, but life became harder. They barely had enough to eat, and the house was always cold. One day, the boy's brother was hit and killed by a drunk driver while crossing the road. After the funeral, the stress took a toll on the mother, and she lost her grip on reality, eventually taking her own life. The boy was sent to an orphanage where they took away his dog, his last remaining friend. At the orphanage, the boy met a friend named Bob. They became inseparable, going everywhere together. Things seemed to improve, but one day, Bob was tragically shot while trying to help an old woman being mugged. The boy, now more alone than ever, felt as though his world had fallen apart. A week later, the orphanage took the children on their yearly field trip, this time a sailing trip. The boy got the job of manning the bird's nest, keeping watch for storms. He was having the time of his life when suddenly the boat heeled over in a strong gust of wind and the boy was thrown from the bird's nest. He fell 50 feet, landing with a loud splat on the deck. Everyone gasped, but to their surprise, the boy stood up, brushed himself off, and seemed perfectly fine. How did you survive that fall? Someone asked. You fell 50 feet. The boy looked around and shrugged. I don't know, he said. I guess I'm just used to hardships. Dad is listening to his daughter say her prayers before bed. Daughter, God bless Mommy, God bless Daddy, and God bless Grandma. And goodbye, Grandpa. Dad, why did you say that? Daughter, I don't know, I just felt like saying it. The next day, Grandpa passes away. The dad thinks, that's a strange coincidence. A month later, at bedtime, the daughter says, God bless Mommy and Daddy. And goodbye, Grandma. Sure enough, Grandma passes away the next day. The dad is now convinced there's something going on, but he doesn't want to worry his wife, since Grandma and Grandpa were her parents. Months go by, and one night as the daughter is saying her prayers, she says, God bless Mommy. Then she turns and looks directly at her dad. And goodbye, Daddy. Dad, what? Are you sure, honey? The daughter nods, and the dad's heart starts racing. He's drenched in sweat and can't sleep all night. The next day, he locks himself in his office at work, takes the phone off the hook, cancels all meetings, and prepares for the worst. The hours crawl by. He stays at work past 5, certain that if he stays there, he will be safe. He watches the clock tick until midnight, when he finally realizes that he has survived. Drenched in sweat and frazzled, he drives home. When he walks in, his wife is waiting for him. Wife, where the hell were you today? Dad, don't shout, I've had an absolutely miserable day. Wife, you think you've had a bad day? I've had a miserable one. First, the milkman dropped dead on our doorstep. Two guys feeling the effects of a long night at the bar stumble into the car and start the engine. As they pull out onto the road, an old man suddenly appears at the passenger window, tapping lightly. The passenger, wide-eyed and in a panic, shouts, "There's an old ghost staring at us through the window!" Freaked out, the driver accelerates, but the old man's face stays right there, pressed against the glass. The passenger rolls down the window a crack, voice trembling. "What do you want?" he asks. The old man's reply is soft but clear. "Got any tobacco?" The passenger, still shaking, hands the old man a cigarette, then yells to the driver, "Go, go, go!" The window snaps up and they speed off, hearts racing. A few minutes pass and they start to calm down, chuckling nervously. "I don't know what happened," the driver says, "but we're doing 80 now. Relax." Just then, there's another tap on the window. The passenger freezes. "There he is again!" he screams. The driver swerves as the passenger rolls down the window, voice shaking. "What now?" the old man asks quietly. "Got a light?" Without thinking, the passenger tosses a lighter out the window, shouting, "Step on it!" The driver floors the pedal, pushing 100 miles per hour, trying to shake off the terror. But then, tap, tap, tap. The passenger's eyes go wide again. "Oh no, not again!" He rolls down the window, practically screaming. "What now?" The old man, unfazed, calmly says, "Need a hand getting out of that mud?" Jim and Ted had both worked for 15 years at the same bra factory, checking the quality of the products. When they were both let go, they headed down to the local employment office to sign up for unemployment benefits. They each filled out some forms and met with a jobs counselor, hoping to find new opportunities. Afterward, they each met individually with a benefits counselor to sort out their unemployment stipend. Back in the lobby, Jim asked Ted how much he'd be getting. "I'll be getting $500 a week," Jim said, "until I find something else." Ted replied, "I'll be getting $2,000 a week." Jim, puzzled and a little upset, asked, "How is that possible? We both worked the same job for 15 years, doing the same thing." Determined to get to the bottom of it, Jim went back to the benefits counselor. He asked, "Why the huge difference in our unemployment?" The counselor explained, "Well, Ted had a very technical and in-demand job that requires specific skills, so his unemployment is much higher than yours." Jim, still confused, said, "We were both working side by side in the same factory. How could our jobs be so different?" The counselor glanced at the forms and replied, "Well, according to Ted, he listed his former position as diesel fitter. That's a highly technical job that involves working with fuel systems on an industrial scale. It requires a lot of training and is in high demand." Jim sat back, taking in the information. "Okay, but that's where the confusion comes in. Every time a brassiere came down the line, Ted would hold it up to his chest and say, 'Desil fit her.'" A boy and a girl lost in the jungle. They hadn't eaten in 4 days, and both were feeling weak. The girl, desperate, turned to the boy and said, "All right, you have to do something for me. Just give your package inside me." The boy, confused, asked, "Why? What's going on?" The girl, looking at her empty stomach, replied, "Dude, something has to go in." A husband and wife went Deepavali shopping to buy a new sari for the wife. The process began smoothly, or so the husband thought. After browsing through countless saris, she shortlisted 100. Then, after what felt like eternity, she reduced it to 25. From those, she asked her patient husband to choose 5. And finally, after a long, exhausting, emotionally draining 5-hour ordeal, she picked one sorry. The husband sighed, settled the bill, and muttered under his breath, "Adam was so lucky he and Eve only wore leaves. He never had to waste time like this." Hearing this, his wife smirked and delivered the ultimate comeback. "Oh, really? And who knows how many trees Adam had to climb before finding the exact leaves Eve wanted? You're lucky. You just have to sit in an air-conditioned shop."